in the SEC saying, quote, the SEC is being arbitrary and capricious. You know, generally judges tend to be pretty, down the middle and try to not be dramatic. Like, those are damning words. So I think at some point the SEC has to step back and realize that their approach of regulation through enforcement, let's just bring lawsuits, that has to break.
We making moves. We making major moves. We making moves. We making major moves. We going all in like we got nothing to lose. We making moves. We making major moves.
What is up, everybody? I'm Mr. Man. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a good hot minute since I've been on this mic spitting to y'all. Just a disclaimer here, some people say, why don't you take that mask off? Never, because I'm a grown-ass man in a Spider-Man mask. I like my privacy, and I want to give you guys, the ones who can see through the Spider-Man mask itself, to understand the knowledge and insights I'm giving you here by allowing you to be that fly on the wall with me in these conversations that I bring. Bless you, bless you. So today, you've heard Brad Garlinghouse say on a few occasions now that what the SEC had done, Judge Torres had described it as arbitrary and capricious. Let's learn what that actually is, what that actually means, all right? We've heard that term, but not a lot of people have looked into it. So I'll let these guys describe it to you, and then I'll let you hear Brad Garlinghouse say it in case you don't remember what I'm talking about. Also, you're going to hear some new regulatory bodies that I'm just learning about. All right, check this out.
Yeah, so let's move on to uncertainty, and Sandra, I'm gonna stick with you on this, right? So the other theme of this conference is uncertainty, and
just quickly, this is Carolyn Pham from the CFTC Commissioner. This is Michael Uyeda. I believe he's a commissioner at the SEC. This here, I don't remember where she's from. She's an AI expert from something or other, and this guy's the host here. So, all right.
And Sandra, I'm gonna stick with you on this, right? So the other theme of this conference is uncertainty, and you talked about how the statutory mission of the FSOC is about identifying risks. Economists, financial economists, tend to distinguish between risk and uncertainty, whereas risk are, you kind of know what the possible scenarios are, you can assign some probabilities for those, and you can do some risk management technique. But really what the FSOC is dealing with is uncertainties. Like, we don't even know what the possible things that are going to come. A global financial crisis, a pandemic, those types of things. How do you deal with uncertainty?
Mm-hmm. So now you know who's the one who deals with this stuff, all right? FSOC. You're not going to hear this stuff anywhere else, all right? I'm going to teach you guys this stuff and break it down for you as easy as possible. Now you know who manages this stuff. FSOC does. So let's hear what, I believe Carolyn Pham responds to this. I don't want to, the first lady that answers is about the AI. That's not necessarily important for what I'm trying to show you guys here. So I'm going to pull up to Carolyn Pham or Mark Uyeda, not Michael. Mark Uyeda. My apologies. Okay, so this is the question I wanted to have him ask, and then you're going to hear what Commissioner Pham states. He's asking her what keeps her up at night. What is it that causes you frustration, all right?
Banks, and so it's a testament to the work there, so great. So, Commissioner Pham, let me come to you. So, your job is also to worry, in some cases, not as much as Sandra, but and stuff. What worries you? What keeps you up at night?
It's a great question, and there's a lot of things that one can worry about. I'll reflect on what used to keep me up at night when I was in my previous role in the private sector, and then what keeps me up at night now. Similar, but slightly different because of the different seats that I've been in. So among the various roles I had at my last firm, which was Citigroup, one of the roles I had that was, I think, very influential in the shaping of my career was as the global head of swap dealer and Volcker compliance. And this was a role that I stepped into, right as I joined the firm, and I'd never been in compliance before. I thought, well, aren't those the ones that go to jail? I don't know if I want to do this job. And it was exactly like Sandra said about the unknown unknowns and the known unknowns. So at any given point, somewhere in the world, 24/7, something is breaking. how do I identify what is breaking and how do I address it, and then how do I assess if there's some type of regulatory violation or some kind of harm or something like that. And it all comes down to having robust risk and control frameworks, risk governance and control frameworks. And so how do you have a systematic way to have policies and procedures, monitoring, testing, assessment, and so on and so forth. And it's similar to what my role is now as a commissioner when I think about our regulatory framework. Does our regulatory framework create that paradigm to view everything through so that we can ensure that each of our registrants indeed has a robust governance, risk, and control framework in order to address the risks that they face. But besides doing that, I also just get to think about what could be the end of the financial system as we know it. And in fact, each of us has lived through the different crises in our lives. For me, the savings and loan crisis, the 2008 financial crisis, and then the COVID-19 pandemic. But it also became, for me, a subject of my work, both academic as well as professional. So in taking all of that together, and in particular in thinking through the 2008 financial crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic, one is that an imagination is a good asset to have actually as a regulator. You must be imaginative and creative to think about how do you look around corners, how do you do that horizon scanning that's necessary. And then the second aspect is probably for the CFTC in particular, when I think about what is the CFTC's role amongst all of the authorities in the world, we're not a member of FSB, but the members of FSB.
So what's FSB?
The Financial Stability Board. And Commissioner Uyeda, who actually the SEC is a member of the Financial Stability Board, and of course Sandra does a lot of coordination with that. He'll be able to tell you more about it because we're not allowed to be a member. The U.S. can only have 3 members, and we're not one of them.
Is that because of George Washington, or is that?
See, they all know each other. I've been telling you guys this. They all know each other. They can poke little jokes here, make fun, and whatever, and have a good time. They know each other.
That's a good question to ask. I think we'll have to put that on the follow-up. But at any rate, so there are plenty of regulators around the world that supervise and monitor the activities of financial institutions, particularly global systemically important banks, for example, and FSOC has a great role in particular around that. But for the CFTC, uniquely speaking, even though we have a global jurisdiction that's probably only second, maybe, to the Department of Justice when we think about our enforcement authority over fraud, abuse, or manipulation in any markets where it can enter the stream of commerce. So that's the global commodity markets, for example. But we also directly oversee pretty much, I think, all of the GSIBs who are registered with us, both U.S. and non-U.S. as swap dealers. And also
Let's go see who those GSIBs are, right? Remember, who regulates them now? So let me show you who they actually are. So here we have the FSB, as she was talking about, Financial Stability Board. This is the 2024 list of global systemically important banks, GSIB. This comes out every November. So let's go down and see how they've changed. So on the GSIB bucket here, the very top one is empty. That's interesting. Very interesting. JP Morgan has been down to, he's number 4. Citi, HSBC, number 3. I'm not sure how, I don't actually recall how these numbers actually work. I need to look more into this. But here's the actual GSIB banks themselves. Let me unhighlight that so you can see that there. Right, this is the list of the GSIB bank. I'm still learning to break down all these things, how they read it, what the reading is about, and, trying to make things make sense here. Again, this isn't the world that I came from. I came from aviation. So still trying to make this make sense.
Also, what's known as systemically important financial market utilities. That includes clearinghouses for the most part. So we have been, and we still are, the primary regulator of the largest clearinghouses in the world. And so we're a clearinghouse to fail. That would have a cascading effect that would be like a triple black swan event for the financial system. And that's why one of the key aspects of the Dodd-Frank regulatory reforms and the G20 derivatives regulatory reforms was to ensure the resiliency of clearinghouses and to ensure that there was robust oversight. That's primarily done through, there's so many acronyms, The Committee for Payment and Markets Infrastructure, together with the International Organization of Securities Commission.
Let's see who CPMI is, okay, with the BIS. That's who she's going to talk about. CPMI is a subsection or a subcommittee of the BIS. So here we have a document, came out in July 2024, July 8, 2024, Committee on Payments and Market Infrastructure by the BIS, Cross-Border Payments Interoperability and Extension, known as PI Task Force. This is the task force that was put together. So let's see who some of the participants are. Buna, they're a faster payment system. We have cross-border, so SIPs here in China. CLS is continuously linked system. EBA is European Banking Authority clearing. We have Finality International, Iberpay, MasterCard. The Pan-African Payment Settlement System, I believe this is a faster payment system as well. PayNet Malaysia, Payments Canada, Ripple. RTGS Global, I believe this is Marcus Treacher's company. Marcus Treacher was an individual from Ripple as well. Then we have Swift here. We got the Clearinghouse. We got Worldline, Bank of China, Commonwealth Bank of Australia, Deutsche Bank, Mercado Pago, Makuru, Nubank, this is out in Brazil, RIA, Societe Generale, Wells Fargo, and Wise. Societe Generale, sometime, I believe in this month, I believe in this month, they're coming out with the stable coin, the EURV. They are coming out with that stable coin, okay? So there's a few more down here as well. So let's jump back.
Of Securities Commission, and that CPMI is in itself a subset of the Bank for International Settlements, but there's the principles for financial market infrastructures, and all jurisdictions that are part of the largest and most significant economies are required to implement that, and that ensures the safety of clearinghouses and other financial market infrastructures.
Yeah, so as an example of a very large clearinghouse, we just, for those of you here with Terry Duffy from CME Group, has one of the largest clearinghouses there, and they have a lot of efficiencies in the system, but we worry about them melting down, so that's great. So
now you're going to learn a bit about Commissioner Pham's role and what she does, and I guess some of the seats that she sits on. And there's some interesting committees and subcommittees that she talks about, because she goes deep into the core boring stuff. But like, listen to what she has to say, okay? Do listen to what she has to say.
Yeah, Commissioner Pham, so one of the ways the CFTC does engagement is, and the SEC does too, is through advisory committees. And you're the chair of one of the advisory committees. Can you talk about the importance of the industry serving on those committees and how it helps you in your role?
So the federal government has recognized the vast expertise and resources of the public, whether it's the industry, academic institutions, think tanks, and public interest groups. And so just over 50 years ago, the Federal Advisory Committee Act was passed, and it ensured that there was a mandated with the appropriate guardrails and things to address conflicts and so on and so forth, but an appropriate mechanism for the public to engage with the federal government and to provide input into the policy-making process. So at the CFTC, we have had a long-standing tradition where each one of the commissioners has the privilege of sponsoring one of these advisory committees. And so I've been very pleased to be the sponsor of the Global Markets Advisory Committee, near and dear to my heart since I started off supporting the global markets business when I was at Citi. And I was pleased to be able to relaunch it under my sponsorship. And I really wanted it to be focused on ensuring that there was a level playing field for global businesses and global markets. Because when I think about the core values of my commissionership and how I wanted to approach my role, it was really to make sure that we were promoting growth, progress, and access to markets in our various policy initiatives. And so the GMAC, as it's known, consists of, has 3 subcommittees, and those subcommittees are the Global Market Structure Subcommittee, the Digital Asset Markets Subcommittee, and the Technical Issues Subcommittee, which is as dry as it sounds. It's typically market infrastructure, technology, and operations issues, the pipes and plumbing of the financial markets and infrastructure committee, and the technical issues subcommittee, which is as dry as it sounds.
So I want to take you through one of the memorandums by the CFTC, the member of Committee on Financial Services. This is one of the subcommittees here. one of the subcommittees here on February 11th, 2025, okay? Subcommittee on Digital Asset, Financial Technology, and Artificial Intelligence hearing a golden age of digital assets, charting a path forward. On Tuesday, February 11th, mark the date in your calendar, you guys, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, the Subcommittee on Digital Asset, Financial Technology, and Artificial Intelligence of the Committee on Financial Services will hold a hearing in room 2128 of the Rayburn House Office Building, titled A Golden Age, Charting a Path. The following witnesses will testify. Okay, so the hearing will examine existing use cases for digital assets and blockchain technology and explore why this technology holds enormous potential to revolutionize the American economy. This hearing will identify how the digital asset ecosystem was stymied by the Biden administration, which led to fewer consumer protections and pushed innovation overseas. Finally, this hearing will serve as a forum to discuss what legislation is necessary to provide strong consumer protections and allow the ecosystem to flourish in the U.S. Listen to some of these legislations, okay? So HR, the expression support for blockchain technology and digital assets. These are bills being proposed, okay? Bills. The Securing Innovation in Financial Regulations Act. This discussion draft establishes the SEC strategic hub for innovation and financial technology, so the FinTech hub within the SEC. This will assist the agency with its approach to technology to coordinate the SEC's response to emerging technologies in financial, regulatory, and supervisory systems. The draft also establishes Lab CFTC in the Commodities Future Exchange, Commodities Future Trading Commissions, which will serve as a information source for the CFTC on fintech innovation. New Frontier and Technology, NFT Act, New Frontier in Technology. This discussion draft clarifies that a covered non-fungible token is not an investment contract nor a transaction in a security. The draft also requires the Government and Accountability Office, the GAO, to conduct a comprehensive study on NFTs that will be made publicly available 1 year after enactment. So when you see that enactment, 1 year following that, save those dates. Listen to this. The Bridging Regulation and Innovation for Digital, Global, and Electronic Digital Assets, known as the Bridge Act. This discussion draft establishes a joint CFTC advisory committee on digital assets composed of digital asset marketplace stakeholders. Among its many duties, the Joint Advisory Committee will provide recommendations to the CFTC and the SEC regarding their respective promulgation of rules for the digital assets. The draft also requires the CFTC and SEC to publicly respond to any recommendations made by the Joint Committee. So where did that come from? I had shown you guys this way back in the day. Right? This is from 2009 during the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis, a joint report of the CFTC and SEC on harmonization of regulation, right? This is an old issue they're bringing back up again now. So they were destined to join. Look at this. A joint report for the harmonization. And what are we seeing now? We are seeing that, known as the bridge. So I want to show you where else this plays out. So why can we have that joint advisory board now with the CFTC and the SEC? This is a real approach to cryptocurrency regulations put out by Ripple, I believe it was in 2020. So right here, fostering this type of open dialogue is precisely the aim of the Eliminating Barriers to Innovation Act, HR 1602, which was introduced on a bipartisan basis by House Financial Services Committee ranking member Representative Patrick McHenry, So in Financial Technologies Task Force Chair Stephen Lynch, the bill, which requires the establishment of a collaborative working group consisting of appointees from the WHO, the SEC, and the CFTC, as well as representatives from fintech companies. So there's a joint working group now from the SEC and the CFTC for digital assets. Can that new advisory board be what will be governing here? The bill requires the establishment of a collaborative working group consisting of appointees from securities. Okay, and these are going to be the ones working within Ripple. And recently, Trump had come out and stated he wanted to have a working group, a stablecoin working group, I think it was, and another working group as well. So I want to continue reading this here so you can see how Ripple is guiding what's actually taking place here. This isn't Trump. Ripple had these things out from time, okay? And this was here based off of the regulations or the bills that were put in place to allow this to happen, right? As Ripple talks about this stuff here. So, as Rep. McHenry and House Agricultural Committee Ranking Member Rep. Glenn GT noted in a letter to Gary Gensler, the SEC and CFTC have existing authority to establish a working group tasked with exploring how to effectively use their current jurisdiction cooperatively. This work could provide Congress with additional information and clarity to protect against regulatory overreach and ensure proper market oversight mechanisms are in place without being too constrictive. A collaborative forum that brings regulators and industry stakeholders together to build a rational and holistic framework for cryptocurrency and blockchain together would represent a step forward toward achieving regulatory clarity. Awesome. So I'm putting the pieces together for you guys here. I want to go back to that video with Carolyn Pham speaking here, because there's more I want to show you. I know I'm 20 minutes in, but there's more I want to show you.
As it sounds, it's typically market infrastructure, technology, and operations issues, the pipes and plumbing of the financial markets. And I've been especially proud that under my sponsorship, we not only have over 125 members across all 3 subcommittees and the parent GMAC, which is the largest advisory committee initiative the CFTC has ever undertaken, but we've also issued 13 recommendations to date, and those span truly the breadth of the global markets, because you can have a derivative on any underlying asset class. So we have looked at issues like treasury market structure reform, repo and funding markets, market volatility controls for commodity markets, T+1 security settlement and the impact with FX markets, swap data reporting to identify systemic risk, and a whole lot of other things that I'm forgetting. Oh, including the digital asset market, or digital asset taxonomy, which I know is coming up later. So yeah. It's been a terrific initiative, and I want to thank all of the firms and organizations that contribute their time and resources and a lot of hard work into these advisory committees.
So Carolyn Pham is going to start discussing here, and then Mark Ueda is going to follow up with Carolyn Pham there. And you're going to discuss some of the shortcomings of the SEC, because Mark Ueda is from the SEC, and then Carolyn Pham goes into, I guess, reiterate or restate what he had says there. And I'm going to play in between these clips here exactly what they're talking about, because what they're discussing has to do with the Ripple court case as well, which is why Ripple keeps winning. So listen to this.
That's one impact, for example.
Mark?
Yeah, I think it doesn't change things a whole lot, in the sense that as an independent federal regulator, I mean, what exactly do you mean by independent? Well, we've always been subject to Congress. I mean, that's the way our Constitution's set up. Article 1, the legislative branch. We've always been subject to judicial review of one way. And there was a judicial doctrine, Chevron, that was out there, which at least at one point would say that if the law was ambiguous, then the courts should defer to the interpretation of the administrative agency. We have always, in all of our rulemaking, both when Chevron was in effect and now I anticipate going forward afterwards, we need to describe what is our statutory authority, because ultimately that is our foundation. Congress has to authorize us to do something. So do we have the statutory authorization, and are we acting in a rational manner, meaning, or in legal speak, not being arbitrary and capricious, which
in the SEC saying, quote, the SEC is being arbitrary and capricious. Generally, judges tend to be pretty, down the middle and try to not be dramatic. Like, those are damning words. So I think at some point the SEC has to step back and realize that their approach of regulation through enforcement, let's just bring lawsuits, that has to break.
So what he means by arbitrary and capricious, what that actually means, because we've heard this now. We've all heard Brad Garlinghouse state this on several occasions. What this means is the SEC is not filing paperwork correctly. It's not doing the correct paperwork that needs to be done going through this court case here with Ripple. So the SEC is not adhering to what they state that they do or must do to their regulating body. So let's keep going.
Means we need to explain what we're doing and why we're doing, which in my view, that regardless of what the Supreme Court decisions expressly say, that's just, I think, a matter of good government. When the government takes actions, we're acting with the full authority and weight and power of the sovereign, so to speak. So we ought to be able to articulate what we're doing and why we're doing that. And as what the decision Loeb Bright said, the courts should be looking at that reasoning. And if it makes sense to them as a reasonable exercise of our authority, then to uphold that under what's called Skidmore review.
And when you think about all of the cases in administrative law, and particularly the Administrative Procedure Act against both of our agencies, where the agencies tend to lose on the arbitrary and capricious violation is because we have failed to show our work, as Commissioner Yeda has just explained. And so everybody in this room, particularly the current students, should know that you have to be able to show your work. And if you cannot, then why should somebody believe or defer to what you have come up with?
Just to show you again, just watch this again.
ETF, where the judge, again, this is a federal judge talking about a federal agency in the SEC saying, quote, the SEC is being arbitrary and capricious.
Not doing their paperwork. So now they're talking to the students saying, you guys, make sure you do your paperwork. Dot those I's, cross those T's, do whatever you gotta do. Do whatever you got to do. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. Well, I do hope you, was that everything? I'm gonna just pause this and take a thought to see if that's everything I want to show you guys today. Yep, I believe that's everything. Well, I do hope you guys found value in this one. I bring fire. I bring stuff that not too many people actually have the be able to find these conferences the way that I do. My algorithm is now set up to a point where it's like, Mr. Man, I know you like this stuff, so take this. Take it. All right, you guys. I do want to say, I do have a Patreon. I have 3 levels for Patreon. One is the free level. You can come in, have a look around, do your thing, chat, get access to all the free documents, the videos I post, videos like this, because I post snippets, but then I give the links to the full video, so you can watch those as well. I also have a $10 tier known as the Tier 1, and within that Tier 1, you get access to everything within that group, right? I'm actually in the works of connecting with somebody, Enrique Freediver, and he is a DeFi specialist as well, and he's joining our group and going to be dropping some knowledge to help out the group members as well for DeFi. Every Sunday, myself and another individual, Jaden, we do a market outlook. I come at it from the regulation side of things and the social engineering and construct perspective, and he comes in from the charts. So then we give you a view on what this next upcoming week could look like. And then on Friday, every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, we have a town hall. And in this town hall, I want to call them professionals or subject matter experts within their field of expertise. We've had Jake Claver. I've had Alan from the Staples crew. Jake Claver discussed wealth preservation. Now that you've come into wealth, What are you going to do? How do you preserve it? What are the steps that you need to do? How do you mitigate risks? And then we had Alan Staple come through, and we're talking about now tax mitigation through such things as trust, which removes the assets from your entity and puts it within the trust, and you are now the custodian of this trust. You are the person looking after this trust. And then do we open up LLCs? What is your exit strategy? You know, we discuss things like that. I bring other individuals such as influencers. This Friday coming up, I have the crypto banker from Crypto Banker SHX. I believe that's how the name goes. And he's fluent. He's fluent in Stronghold and SHX, and SHX is trading ridiculously cheap. Just last week was Alan. The week before that, we had Luke, the deep diver. We were discussing Velo. I'm having Nerdy come through. I've had numerous people come through. I've had Sean of the XDC come through from XDC itself, a representative. I'm looking to get psychologists and counselors in with us as well to talk to us now that wealth is here. Psychologically speaking, what do we need to do? How do we keep ourselves composed? How do we trust ourselves to follow our exit plans? In the group, we discuss things like, okay, I'm dead. Now what? What do you do? Because no one knows your plan. No one knows your strategy. Do they? You do, and that's it. So what's your strategy? Do you have a thumb drive with videos on there? I'm dead. Now what? Here's where I kept my assets. Here's how I kept my assets. Here's my password. I'm giving you guys game here. These are the things you should be thinking from now, because if nobody else can access your ledger, your decent, your whatever, because the biometrics are yours, the password's yours, no one knows where your stuff is, it was all for naught. It was all for nothing. Strategize, be in a group, and the reason you want to be in a group, because you can begin to think about things that you've never considered before or haven't even thought about. All right, you guys, I hope you found value in this one. I'll see you on the next one.
We making moves. We making major moves. We making moves.